Hello students, welcome to MJC Learning. Today we are going to learn chapter number 8 of economics, that is public finance in India. This is part 1 video of the chapter. Let's get started. In this video we are going to understand the meaning of public finance and also the definitions of public finance and difference between public finance and private finance. Let us understand the first point. Public finance is one of the old branches of economics which highlights the role and functions of the government in the economy. The word public, here we are basically representing it with government. So, with word public finance, we are going to understand how government manages the income and expenditure in the economy. So in this chapter, we are going to understand government's income and expenditure, which are the sources by which government gets income and which are the which are the ways where government spends. So that is government's expenditure. So this is the old branch of the economics, which highlights the role and functions of the government. What is the functions of the government that we are going to understand with the word public finance. Second point is government is a formal or informal institution created by the people in specific region to perform various functions such as protection from external attacks, protection of the private property of the people, generation of employment, maintaining internal law and order, provision of social needs like education, health, etc. Now, as you must be aware that we elect government after every 5 years. So once we elect the government, it becomes government's duty to perform certain functions. Government performs many functions. Some are compulsory, that is obligatory functions, and some are optional functions. Obligatory functions that government has to perform, where government needs now to obligatory functions means compulsory functions where government has to perform certain tasks which that cannot be denied or which cannot be postponed. But if we talk about optional functions, means it is optional. Government can decide after certain months government can perform functions. Now whenever we talk about government's working, government always work for welfare of the people. Unlike your private firms or private companies where their main motive is profit, where government's main motive is welfare. So, it is the institution created by the people to perform various functions. There are two basic functions of the government. One is obligatory functions. Just now I told you obligatory means compulsory functions. That is protection from external attacks, maintaining internal law and order, etc. These functions cannot be denied or these functions cannot be postponed. Whereas government also does some other functions which are optional functions. These all functions government do, but optional functions are something which government can postpone by months or so if government does not have enough fund in hand. But obligatory functions or compulsory functions are those functions which government has to do it. If government does not have enough fund, government can take loan or can take borrowing from other foreign banks or from other banks. But that has to be done. So what are the obligatory functions? That is protection from external attacks, maintaining internal law and order. And optional functions are provision of education and health services, provision of social security like pensions and other welfare measures. Let us see meaning and nature of public finance. The concept of public finance is a combination of two words, public and finance. So if we join these two words, the meaning of public and finance becomes public finance. In economics, it is used to signify the government which represents the public. So by the word public, we represent the government. Finance means income and expenditure. So how a government manages its income and its expenditure that we understand from public finance. Thus, public finance means a study of the principles of income and expenditure of the government at central, state, and local levels. So, at all the levels, it could be the central level, that is the main prime minister. If we talk about that, becomes central level. State chief minister. Chief minister also manages many functions for the state, for the welfare of the state. So that is chief minister's functions. And that is local level. Local level means if you talk about city, so these all functions has to be performed by government. By government we just not imply it to the main government, but all the officials of the government who are working under main government for the welfare of people. Let us see definitions of public finance. Public finance is the study of the principles underlying the spending and raising of funds by public authorities. So raising of funds means income. Where how can government raise a fund? Through the source of income. There are different sources through which government will receive the money, which will be called as income. And there are certain functions or certain services that government has to do it for the welfare of the people, where government is spending money. So that becomes government's expenditure. We will learn that in detail step by step in this chapter. So this earlier definition is given by Professor Finlay Shiraz, and next definition is given by Hugh Dalton, that is public finance is one of those subjects which are on the borderline between economics and politics. So this is related with the economics also and politics also. Why politics? Because who selects the government? Government is elected by common people, so that includes politics. And economics because it is related with the finance, so this is between the economics and politics. If good government, if we elect a good person as our government, as our minister, then what will happen? That ultimately it will be benefited to us only. And if we select a person who is not very well interested for people's welfare, then that will be ultimately problematic for people like us. So public finance is one of those subjects which are on the borderline between economics and politics. It is concerned with the income and expenditure of public authorities and with the adjustment of one with the other. Now let us see differences between public finance and private finance. First point of difference, that is objectives. Public finance is maximum social advantage to the society. So public finance means government finance, now you are aware. So government mainly works for the welfare of the society. So government mainly try to give maximum advantage, maximum welfare to the society. So they work for the welfare of the society. Here they are not profit oriented, they are welfare oriented. Whereas private finance in first point is says that to fulfill private interest. So their main motive is to gain profit and not for the welfare of the society. So objective for public finance is to welfare or social advantage to the society, whereas private finance is to fulfill private interest. Then second point is determination of expenditure. Now here government determines the volume and different ways of its expenditure. That is, government decides how government will spend the money and what are the ways by government can get the money. That is, government can increase the income and divide where how the different ways that government can spend the money. Who will decide everything? Government will decide. Who will decide how much has to be spent? Government will decide. Who will decide the different sources where the government can get more money? Government will decide. Whereas in private finance, an individual will decide. That is, an individual considers his income and then determines the volume of expenditure. So in private finance, individual first decides how much income an individual has, and accordingly individual will spend or individual will decide its expenditure. So that who will decide? In private finance, individual will determine or individual will decide, whereas in public finance, government will determine or government will decide. Then comes point number 3, that is credit status. Now, how much credit? Credit means if government does not have sufficient fund, government can get money from the market. Here, credit status, that is high degree of credit in the market. That is, government can get high degree of credit. Government does not require little amount. It could be, it generally is in lakhs because government works for the many people of the country. So government gets high degree of credit from the market, whereas an individual does not get that much credit from the market. They get limited amount of credit. They get limited amount of money from the market because that is small individuals we are talking about. But when we talk about government, then government has to look for so many, government has to take care of so many people. So that in case of government, credit, high degree of credit or high degree of credit money is given from the market. Then comes point number 4, right to print currency. Government can print notes through Reserve Bank of India. You need to understand one point, that government does not print themselves. Government does not have themselves right to print currency, but government has given that right to Reserve Bank of India, and only Reserve Bank of India can print currency. In private finance, private individual do not have such right. So private individual do not have any right to print any currency. That will be called as illegal money, fake money. So right to print currency, that is government can print notes but not government. Government has given that right to Reserve Bank of India. Then we continue further. Next comes elasticity of finance. Public finance is more elastic, and in private finance it is written not much scope for changes in private finance. That is, public finance is more elastic. It can be more or less. Elasticity means movement. It could be sometimes government more wants more money, sometimes government needs less money. So that is elastic. Whereas private finance does not private finance gets has certain limit. So beyond that limit, private finance will not get money. So private finance does not have much scope for changes in finance. And then last point of difference is effect on economy. Public finance, that is government's income and expenditure, plays a very important role in economy. And finally, on in country also it plays a very important role because it is related with so many people's welfare. Whereas private finance does not uh, put more effect, it just put marginal effect in the national economy. So if government, whatever government is doing, suppose if government is getting money through taxes, that is further we will understand, but just an example, that if government is imposing some taxes, that will also make a great impact. So before deciding anything, government has to think for the people first, so it creates a great impact. And also if government is spending, that also is in crores of rupees, so for that also government has to think and plan everything. So that is public finance, and it creates a huge impact or tremendous impact in the economy of a country, whereas private finance does not create that much impact in the national economy. So by this I finish first part, where we have learned about the introduction of public finance. There are two functions. We have learned the difference between public finance and private finance, and also we have learned there are two functions of public finance, that is obligatory functions and optional functions. So the meaning of public finance you have understood. Now from further chapter we will understand which are the sources through which government gets money. That is, we will see the structure of public finance, and further we will understand one by one each point. Thank you.